Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Girl Dad Show. Today, I have a really, really special guest, Jamie Ahern, on the show. Jamie, please introduce yourself and share with the listeners a little bit about what you do for a living.
Yeah. So I'm Jamie. This is kind of funny because like you and I are obviously good friends and never worked in like a professional capacity before. But yeah, I'm currently the CEO and co-founder of a company called Parabolic Auto. We build technology for car dealerships, really trying to help automate their sales and service of their finance and insurance products, specifically outside of the point of sale of the vehicle. So we sort of plug into their CRM databases and help automate the sale to existing customer bases. But have spent most of my career, at least the last decade or so, in FinTech and specifically in like the technology startup VC-backed realm.
Yeah,
But
that's
started
awesome.
my career in sort of hedge funds and was there for 7 or 8 years before jumping over.
Yeah, and I have a bunch of questions about that because I think your background is super interesting, and I think it's really cool for people to hear how you landed in this space that you're at. But before we get into it, I do want to kind of double click into what you just said earlier, which is how funny it is that we're now finally doing this show because I've been waiting for you to have kids. I'm like, come on, Jamie.
It's
Come on. This episode has been in the works for years. It's just like, hey, just waiting and scheming. Yeah.
He's finally a year old.
I know. Finally, it's awesome. I think it's really fun though because I do think that we met via an introduction via Eric, and then we hit it off almost immediately.
Oh yeah.
And then we set up some regular calls, and then Eric started getting FOMO, so he started inviting.
I think that was actually the first time we talked. We were like, dude, we should just do this every week. And like we just set
This
up
is
a
awesome.
weekly. Yeah.
I know, it was so amazing. It was like a immediate. Was it love at first sight? It was a bromance at first sight. Yeah.
But I
And
think
then
it's funny. I think we've only hung out in person like twice. For like as much as we've like talked and zoomed and texted and whatever. I think we've only hung out in person like twice.
it's a good point. That is interesting, huh? I think you're right. Yeah,
And
we got to do a third one this year. I got to come out and see you.
Yeah, you were dinner.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your kid, man. Like, tell the listeners, what fatherhood has been like. I know you just said you have a year old, but walk us through the experience and who your kid is. And
So he turned a year old a week ago Thursday. So literally just a year old.
you really meant like it
Yeah.
just okay, great. That's awesome.
So March
Yeah.
27th is his birthday. So last Thursday.
Wow, congratulations, man. You have a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
Wow.
We do.
Yeah.
He's been incredible. I think I know you know this, but it was a challenging experience. I think throughout the whole thing where he was born kind of 7 weeks early. And so
Yeah.
he spent 5 weeks in the NICU, which was like really stressful. And I don't think neither me nor my wife were prepared for it. The NICU, we really left that experience having just such a deeper appreciation of everything that like doctors and nurses and like everywhere in the healthcare system, like everything that they do. There's no sugarcoating it. It's terrible. It's a rough experience, but really, at least the hospital we were at, Prentice in Chicago, was for what we were going through, just incredible every step of the way.
Yeah.
So little bit of a rocky start.
Yeah.
He finally came home in early June. So again, like 5-6 weeks in the NICU, and then it's been a blast ever since.
Yeah.
We moved in preparation of having the kids. So we were kind of in West Loop, which is like the more hip, fun nightlife.
Yeah.
That's where we went out.
Yeah.
And then moved up to like Stroller Central.
Yeah.
Roscoe Village, Southport.
Yeah.
In Chicago, which is it was a stressful move, but like it's incredible. Like we literally share a dumpster with our daycare. So
Wow.
I carry him to daycare every day.
Oh, wow.
There's
You
no
really
power.
live in you really switched. Yeah, that's perfect.
Totally.
That's amazing.
But it's been so much fun to see him, grow up, and like he's got a personality now. He's got opinions. He's like,
Yeah.
because he was so early, he's been he's one, but he's sort of been a little bit closer. Like,
Physically smaller? Okay,
Right.
got it. Yeah.
and he's caught up from a sizing perspective, but more from like the crawling, walking, like rolling.
Yeah.
All of like everything was kind of delayed a month and a half,
Yeah.
2 months.
Yeah. And I heard that's true though. I mean, it's actually a lot. I mean, if you don't mind me talking about it a little bit, but it's a lot more common than people realize, and we just don't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
And it's super weird that we don't because it's such a traumatizing experience and it's such a hard experience for parents to go through. Yet we kind of just kind of shove it underneath the rug and like don't talk about it. And then two, I think the biggest thing is that there is that kind of like catch up period, but it all evens out supposedly in like 2 or 3 years, right?
Exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you say by 2, he'll be fully caught up, and if he's not,
Yeah.
we got problems.
Yeah.
At this point, he's
Yeah.
well on his path
Good.
to getting there.
Yeah, and then what was the biggest thing that you changed about your mindsets from, I know you were like planning it because you even moved your house to the suburbs and you had a really cool space in West Loop. I will say that's really fun that you could just like go out and hang out and do your fun thing and go back home. So I know it's a big move and change, but you were planning it. But what's the biggest surprise? Yeah.
Well, and I think we were fighting that. I was pushing for the proper suburbs. We're
Yeah.
still in the city.
Yeah.
It's just a much more like stroller friendly
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But it is like I really wanted to move to the suburbs, and my wife
Yeah.
was not having it.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the
So you wanted to go further in the suburbs. Sorry. Oh, got it. And then you guys just met in the middle and kind of did a suburbs near the city.
She absolutely steamrolled me.
So you're still in the city.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We're about a 15-minute walk from like Wrigley Field.
Oh, nice. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. In some ways, that's actually really cool for your kid too, you know?
It's a blast.
Yeah.
And, like, specifically, that little neighborhood has like the best ranked public schools
Yeah.
in Chicago. So if we're planning on sending him public at least most of his life, he's a 5-minute walk to the elementary school.
That's
Every
awesome.
bar and restaurant has like dedicated stroller parking.
Oh, the neighborhood is like that. That's just awesome. Yeah.
It's just so my wife Rebecca did this thing, strongly recommended. So we were moving into a new neighborhood. We didn't really know anybody.
Yeah.
And wrote maybe 20 postcards just of like, hey, we're new to the neighborhood. This is my background. This is Jamie's background. This is, you know, we came from New York. We're in West Loop before. We've got a little baby on the way. You know, here's our contact information. And just, I literally walked out and put them in every like mailbox.
Oh my gosh.
20 out of 20 people responded with like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. Half of them invited us over for like, you know, breakfast or drinks or whatever. And so to the point where like 3 months later, we actually threw a neighbors only party, like welcome party thing at our house. And like there was 50 people there.
That's awesome.
Like it's nuts. He's a year old. We know 7 kids that are going to be in his kindergarten class already.
Wow.
It's
so
a little bubble within.
That's a really, really clever idea, and props to your wife for doing that, because I will tell you, it is weird making friends as an adult. Do you know what I'm saying?
Totally. And it's so dictated by your kids. We're already seeing that. Like half of our friends now are his daycare parents kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're wonderful, awesome people, but like we never would have met them if they didn't happen to be in the same daycare together.
That's right. You get to definitely get bonded with definitely different people that are in your normal sphere of work or play and things like that. And it's really fascinating. It does broaden your horizons quite a bit. But it is trickier when you move, like, because we moved here, you know, as you know, adults, right? We moved here, like, no family, no friends, and like, well, sight unseen. We literally never been here before. We just moved here. Sorry, but oh man, I'm like snotting. But the tricky thing has been making friends as adults. It's like super awkward.
Yeah,
it's really weird. Yeah, but kids definitely help with that. That's absolutely true.
The other thing my wife did is she loves, and you've met Bex, but she loves to cook.
Yeah.
She started this thing. This is definitely not her day job. She's like a finance bro like me.
Yeah.
But she started this like charity event where she just cooks for anywhere between 20 and 40.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become like such a low lift way to like invite acquaintances over to our house and have like, you know, all of her cooking. And it's always for like a good cause. Like the most recent one we did was supporting like a NICU charity that like we had been on the receiving end of. That was
wow.
And it's such an awesome, like low lift way to get people just closer. Like you're always going to be closer to somebody who like eat their home cooked meal.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.
It's interesting that because she's also a powerhouse. She's like like you said, she's a finance powerhouse. But it's interesting that her opposite is like so nurturing. That's kind of interesting because no offense, but you're kind of the same at work or at play.
we're very different in a lot of ways. Yeah. She's, you know, it's kind of funny. Her path to finance versus my path to finance were very, very different. kind of up until the moment she took her job, she thought she was going to be a lawyer. She thought she was going to go into, I mean, she had a million different ideas.
Oh,
And
wow.
finance was sort of an accident for her. And yeah, like 15 years later, she's still into it, but very, very different than my path.
Yeah.
To finance.
It's awesome, man. It's good to have opposites too, by the way. I mean, like, it's so much better to have that kind of complementing skill set as well, because your kids will come out more balanced. I mean, my opinion is your kids will come out more balanced for it, you know? I mean, gosh, I'm like so nervous if my kids come out exactly like me, because I'm like way too extreme. You know what I mean? It just like, I'm like a one-trick pony, you know? I just like...
We talk about that a lot. Like, we're really hoping Quinn, my son, is like 80% my wife and like 20%.
I like that the number is so high to your
Yeah.
life.
Oh, not close.
That is so funny. Well, what about you, man? Why do you want to live in the suburbs? Like, walk me through what your childhood was like. How did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in the suburbs, and I don't know if this is, we've actually talked about it, so I do know that this is possible because I think your daughters have a little bit of this experience. But like, I grew up in the suburbs in like a very middle class, not particularly nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
Fine, super safe was the most important part. Where like, especially in the summers, I would leave as soon as I woke up, and I wouldn't come home until dinner, kind of thing. And it
Yeah.
would just be like, walking around the neighborhood, going and playing, and like, little like forest things or whatever with just like
awesome.
the neighborhood kids, and like that would be all day every day. And we would do these things. We used to throw these massive, especially in like high school when like people were a little bit more mobile. I lived in a little cul-de-sac, and so there was like no through traffic or like very, very few cars, and so we would throw these, like, we would just call it like kick the can. We would play these like backyard neighborhood games like Ghost in the Graveyard, Kick the
Yeah.
Can, like whatever. But like, we would get like 40, 50 kids from the neighborhood to just
Oh,
show
wow.
up. And we kept doing that from the time I was maybe like 7 until through high school. And sure, like it turned less into like actually playing the games and more into like a hangout spot. But it was incredible. And so I think, as I thought about it, that's what I really wanted for my kid.
Yeah.
My wife's experience, and we've talked about this a lot, like my wife's of Asian descent. And so I think she was a little worried about moving out to the suburbs, where she's like, direct quote, "Jamie, I'm going to drown in white people." She told us about it. And she's
Yeah.
also a foodie, and she's like, what are we going to do? Go to Applebee's?
Yeah.
And
What's wrong with Applebee's? Come on, Max.
I like Applebee's.
Me too.
I was team suburbs.
And I love white people. Sounds wonderful. Let's do this. Oh, it's so funny.
So yeah, I think, she was really focused on, and to be fair, she nailed the neighborhood.
Yeah.
She was really focused on diversity, not just from a racial standpoint, but like socioeconomic standpoint. And we really kind of do have a very wide dispersion, where I think, I grew up in it was very racially.
Like a silo, yeah. Somewhat of a bubble, yeah.
Oh, well, for her, it was very white. For me, like my high school was probably like 20% white.
Oh, wow.
And so it was quite diverse.
Yeah.
And I always feel like whenever people say that, they actually mean like 80% of non-white, of
Yeah.
like, but a very specific, like whatever, like Black, Latino, whatever. Ours was a true mix. So it was like,
Wow.
25, 30%.
Everyone had 25%.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome.
Kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really diverse, but it was probably middle class to lower middle class, especially high school. Like our direct neighborhood was probably on the upper end of that,
Yeah.
our high school district. But certainly in high school, it was very, very diverse, but probably a good slice of like, the, call it 40th percentile, like income, not the 95th percentile income.
Yeah.
Where she went was much more very white, very rich.
Oh, got it. So she has like this almost aversion to it because she's so conscious of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, where you're kind of oblivious to it because you always kind of grew up with a sense of like that being normalized to a lot of degrees. And then the focus was how do you kick the can the best with
Yeah.
these 40 other kids. Yeah, that's actually really fascinating because it kind of goes back to this whole concept of like if you make it a big deal, it becomes a big deal. And we've had some pretty
talked a lot about
deep conversations about this whole concept of like bringing up our kids with these kind of values and thought processes, right? Because like for me, I just like I don't even want my kids to even think about it. Like to me, it doesn't matter or bother me at all, right? Like I'll go into places where my Asian brethren will say, hey, it's a little more sensitive, racially there. And I don't even know. Like, I'll just walk in and just like, like sit at the bar, just like, let's do this. What are we doing? We're having fun. What's going on? And I think that it's obviously you don't want to be ignorant to the fact, but, just being mindful of it as well is really, really interesting. But I never thought about our conversations and how it parlays to our kids. That's really fascinating because it's one thing to think about it myself, but like, because you don't want them to like be oblivious either, right? Like you don't want them to be like negligent or like ignorant to it, but you also don't want them to like seek it out or worry about it,
I don't know if I've told you this, but you've actually really shaped my opinions on some of this. Because especially right before Quinn was born, I was very nervous about one, my ability to help him navigate some of these racial identity issues, and two, like I also sometimes worry like if my wife is too far removed from it too, where like my wife always had the Asian community, I always had the white community. I just really hope that like Quinn has both, either kind of thing. But I think when we were first talking about this months ago, maybe a year and change ago, you were the one that like I always felt guilty for thinking about some of this. Like, dude, you're his dad. You're allowed to like you're allowed to have opinions. You're allowed to like that very much shaped sort of how I've started to think about it. Because I know like you're obviously in the same boat, right? And,
totally. Yeah, I have mixed kids too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like dude, you owe it to your kid to have opinions and
totally.
Try
totally.
To this. Where I was feeling really guilty for a long time about it.
Yeah, I mean that guilt is really hard, man. It's like really, really hard because you obviously have understanding and empathy, but at the same time, like at what point do you allow that to not sear your core values into your kids?
Right.
And the reality is, like, based on what I know about you, it's not even about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For you, it's really about how well can you kick this can down the street with these other kids. And you're like, why am I even spending this much time and attention on this? Like, I would much rather not even have it be an issue and just focus on being the best can kicker in the cul-de-sac,
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of the guilt stemmed from is like, I was like, oh, that's literally white privilege, right? That like, I only have to think about how hard can I kick this can. And I was like, maybe I'm the jerk here by like not being, aware enough about like what a lot of my best friends are going through and what my kids are going through.
Yeah. I think it's really noble and conscious of you to do that. But I also I think that it's like, it's just, there's two ways to address it from my point of view, and I think we should talk about this some more with our kids because we both have mixed kids that are going to go through this, and it'll be really funny when they experience. Well, it won't be funny, but I will laugh a little with you about it, and when they start getting like racial, racially bullied,
Yeah.
Because I'll be like, "Welcome to the real world, kid,"
Right.
But I'll speed dial you and say, "Hey, I got Lily got called something," but I think that it's one of those things for me where it's like, it's how you perceive it, and I used to be so charged with trying to like defend it and like protect it, and I was so conscious of it, and it like made me into like a seeker of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even if they were, the reality is if you just take a different perspective of it and you don't care, even if they are racist, they stop being racist if you just are so like, hey, what are we doing? Let's grab a drink. Let's have fun. Let's play darts. What do we like? You know what I mean? Like you move it to kick the can.
Totally.
Even the people that have unless they're super racist, then it's very obvious anyways. But even if they had some biases or stereotypes, those things will just dissipate the moment you just move it to the activity. Do you know what I mean? Like let's go do this common goal. And so over the course of my 40 years, I'm older than 40. I try to cut my age down in this podcast. Over my 45 years, I've done both sides and I've swung both sides. And I feel like that has taught me at least that one thing is that like, if you don't see it, the vast majority of people don't actually give a shit.
Right.
Yeah, right. They don't care. Yeah, they're like, move on. Yeah, like order a super salad, man. I'm hungry. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like why are we still talking about this?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think to my wife's credit, she's smarter than me in almost every way. But in this way in particular, it's kind of great. Where like his daycare there's like 9 kids in his immediate class. I think some of them are mixed race, and so like he's sort of already like got this little community that'll grow with it. That I think is pretty cool. And like
Yeah.
looking at our neighborhood is, I would say, I said earlier, it's both like racially and socioeconomically diverse. It is, but it's probably more racially diverse than it is socioeconomically diverse.
Yeah. Totally.
It is a very like safe, nice, well-ish to do neighborhood, but it
Yeah.
is. I definitely find some peace with the whole thing, knowing that like he's not like my wife, where like she was one of the only, you know.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Uh,
That's very vulnerable for you to say that. I appreciate you saying
yeah,
that. Yeah. Yeah. I will tell you right now, my town has like less than 50 Asian people in it. And
really.
I freaking love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm all about it. I'm like, I'm so exotic here. It's like, walking around, like, look how cool I
right.
am. I feel very special. I don't really care at all. Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, but I think it's really important to like think about these things because I make really crass jokes about it, but the reality is that it can be dangerous, and it does actually it does happen. You know what I mean? And it is real, and so you do need to like prepare the kids for that. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about it from the kids' perspective because I haven't really put much thought into like what's going to happen when that happens. I know it'll eventually happen, but I'm not like thinking about what my reaction is going to be. I probably should put some more thought into that.
Yeah, and I think you also told me this too, but like, I was really struggling with this concept of like, will I be able to relate to him as he's
Yeah,
going through this, and like, will my wife be able to relate to him as he's going through this? And the short answer is like, race aside, we're not going to be able to relate to like anything that they're going through.
totally,
Like the whole, I mean, the world is such a different place than it was
totally.
30, 40 years ago when we were growing up.
That's right.
Sure, race is a part of it, but like, pick your favorite. Like, we're not going to be able to relate. It's just a totally different cyberbullying. Like, that was
Yeah, totally.
when we
Yeah,
grew up.
that's right. That's right. I'm more worried about that than I am about race bullying, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. It's like some of those stats are like crazy, especially with the younger generation. Like just the depression levels, the anxiety levels, the
yeah,
just insanely scary right now. So
it's not good. And I don't think our generation is helping, where I think like a lot of our generation is like, look at my 9-year-old skincare routine. And it's like, let him be awkward.
yeah, it's
What
so
are we,
funny.
what are we doing?
We're about to get canceled. I love it. This episode's amazing. We're just going for it. I love it. I know. I completely agree with you. I think it's like so funny. My wife is really good about this. She's just like, let kids be kids. She's like, kicks them
Totally.
out of the house, go outside, like go
Yeah,
do
right.
something. Can I have the iPad? It's like, no, go outside. They're like, there's nothing to do. We'll be bored outside, and like she'll like kick them out. You know what I mean? Like, and
Totally.
it's really important to make them do that. Like go find something to satiate your boredom because I think the biggest thing is like if you keep kind of sticking them into this kind of vehicle that everyone else does, like then they're going to consume. It's kind of this whole thing like you become who you hang out with, right? And so if you end up hanging out with this kind of exposure, you start becoming like that, and that becomes
Yeah.
normalized. Where I think my wife is as much as we're different, I do agree with her on that whole aspect of like go outside. Like it's okay to be bored. Go be bored outside. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, go get in trouble, go get hurt. Like, go be outside. You know what I mean? Go play on
Well,
stuff.
and I think there's something to just like walking across the street as like an 8-year-old and like ringing a doorbell and being like, "Hey, can little Johnny come out to play?" kind of thing that like
Yeah,
stays with you, right? Like if you can do that
totally.
in your adulthood, like that's a great trait that I would love for Quinn
Yeah,
to feel comfortable
yeah.
just like walking down the street, like, "Hey, can Johnny come?"
Yeah. I will say though, that's so quintessential and it's like so quintessential suburb, but we have that here. It's freaking amazing. Yeah, it's like my favorite thing. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the doorbell rings and there's just a bunch of kids in my front door, like, hey, can Lily and Grace play? And I'm like, I don't know, but come on in. You ask them yourself. You know what I mean? And they already know where the room is. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like I don't know, man. My heart is so happy here. It's like,
Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
beautiful. Well, and I
yeah,
know like Eric's always been a big proponent of this, and I love the whole concept of this. Like, it really does kind of take a village type
yep,
thing. Like, if you can curate that village and like know that your kid's safe, yeah, let them outside, let them go like unsupervised play, and let them go.
that's right.
I think it's important. My biggest hope in general is that Quinn is better than I am, right? And if
Yeah,
I'm his only teacher, like he's in trouble. right? Like he's got to be learning from his friends. He's got to be learning from his neighbors, from whoever else. So, I really do hope he's a little too young for us to know if that exists, but I think it does. I feel like it does in our neighborhood, maybe, but I'm excited to figure out.
Well, I mean, I'm not a child development expert at all, but there's a lot of studies that say like your surroundings and where you live has more impact on who you are than anything you could do as a parent.
Yeah.
Just so you know, I mean, just to make you feel less consequential or make you feel less important, or at least
Right.
take half the weight off your shoulders. Like that is what the studies say. Like the location you choose to raise your kid has more, because they'll get your core values and they'll watch what you do and take your mannerisms, but like the way they perceive the world is going to come from the reactions of external factors.
Of course.
Yeah, and so as it should, yeah. And so I think that it's really interesting. Yeah, it'll be funny to see how our kids grow up when they're adults and we see how your kids are versus my kids.
I'm sure they're going to.
Oh no, I know they'll be great. It's just funny because you're still kind of technically in the city, you know. And I've always been curious about that because I feel like the city life is also really interesting, right? It kind of shows a lot of like back to what I mean. So Amy and I argue about this all the time. So she also is like, hey, I'd love to be in a place that has very similar to Beck's, yeah. More restaurants, more things to do, like more people, different types of people, different levels of socioeconomic status, race, and all these things. And for me, I don't know why it's important.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just want to play kick the can really well with my kid.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's all I care about. You know?
I worry about that. I mean, Quinn can't walk yet, right? So like,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of learning to do.
And you have plenty of time. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, that was always my concern is, watching a little toddler just like stuck inside or stuck in like a very tight, well-defined area where like my parents just like let me go out in an open field and I would just run with like.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was like, me being a golden retriever kind of thing. It's like, just go until you can't walk anymore and then come back. It's like,
I am curious, when you said that though, how did you get breakfast and lunch before you had dinner? Did you like just find food at different neighbors' houses, or did you come back for food and go back out, or what was that like?
That's a great question. I must have come back at different times or like eaten at neighbors' houses or
Yeah.
I've never thought about it. My parents were always big. And I think this is like, I've got a very good relationship with my parents and my family. And I think this was part of it. My mom in particular was really set on like, no, like 7 o'clock is dinner. You're home for dinner. We're not talking about this. Like you can get in trouble for very, very few things. Like go be a kid, go get hurt, go get dirty, go do whatever.
Yeah.
But 7 o'clock is dinner and you will be here. And
Yeah.
Okay, 7 o'clock's dinner and I can be there.
Yeah.
And it was, but
cool.
so I remember that, but I have no idea like what I did for breakfast or lunch. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Because I'm like thinking about it here. My kids are still they go and ring on doorbells like maybe 20% of the time that other kids ring on our doorbells. So they're not like equal level of like outgoingness, but they are starting to get there. And it's I think it's just a matter of just like comfortability. Like it's comfortable here. I don't know what it is, but they're not like full on like that. But I do know that when the kids are here, like the neighborhood kids are here, like we'll just feed them if it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We'll just be like, hey, do you want me to text your mom if this is okay? Right. They're like, yeah, mac and cheese. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's kind of fun, man. It's very heartwarming for me. You know what I mean? Like I feel at peace. It's like
I'm excited. Honestly, like my wife and I always knew we wanted kids. It was never we talked a lot about how many kind of thing, but it was never a discussion of like if we wanted kids or not.
That's awesome.
But yeah, like now being here, like I kind of have to remind myself to like enjoy these moments and like cherish these moments now, because like they're not going to be, when they're 5 or 6 and I'm having that like making mac and cheese for 8, 6-year-olds, I'm going to have times where like all he wants is like a hug from dad kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and cuddles. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
like,
and you can actually hold him like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like without him squirming and kicking you in the freaking
stomach
or
right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, like he woke up. He's usually a phenomenal sleeper, but he woke up at like 1 a.m. this morning. And I walked in there and I was like trying to figure out if he's hungry, if he needed change or whatever. And like he just wanted a hug, right?
That's awesome.
I picked him up and like he just fell right back asleep. So okay, like you just wanted a hug.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, you got to enjoy it for sure. I mean, I'll tell you right now, it's so cliche, but I I already, miss, I feel like it went too fast. I miss their small little size, and I look at their pictures and videos even now, what I mean?
Right.
Which is crazy because they're still young, but like I still look at when they're sleeping, I go back and look at old photos and videos because they were just so much cuter. They're like gross now, you know what I mean? But I mean, I still love them. They're still super cute. But man, when you look at these videos when they're 1 to 5, oh my gosh, they're so
totally.
amazing. Yeah.
Totally.
I do have some business. Wait, before I go to the business questions, did you guys land on the number of kids? Is that still part of the discussion?
And not to open up this can of worms, but like it's somewhat biology dependent. Like I think we would love for us one is incredible, and if one is what we get, we will be happy. If we got two, I think we'd be ecstatic.
Yep.
Starting to push for three, and she's like, Jamie, you watch your mouth. We did land, and then I think Quinn came, and I was like, I could do more. And she's like, whoa, like,
yeah.
heavy lifting here.
Yeah, exactly. Our job is so easy in this project. Absolutely. I wanted 4, and we settled on 2. Yeah. So maybe that's the trick: is you got to pick a bigger number, JB. Don't you know the art of the sale?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get negotiated down to the number you wanted. That's how it works.
My dad's one of 6.
Wow.
So I've got like 20-something first cousins.
Oh wow, that's a big family.
Yeah.
I have a really big family too, and so I grew up in a really big family with a ton of cousins and uncles and aunts, and so 2 or 3, I think definitely 2 generations, possibly 3 generations of really big families. And so I really wanted a big family, but it is what it is. Times are different, things change. It's so expensive and hard now. It's like, I mean, and we have to like do more stuff for them than we used to, you know what I mean? Like I think child rearing was like, our parents barely knew what they were doing. Right. So much PTSD and like therapy that we're going through from it. I'm just teasing. They were great. They did what they could, and they did the best that they could. So let's talk about business real quick, and then I'll move on to my rapids so I can get you on time here. But
good.
What made you think about starting this journey because you essentially became a CEO of a startup as you're having a kid? Like, just talk to me about like the decision making that you and Bex went through for risk reward, having a kid, starting a company. Like there's a lot of things here that, are conflating in priorities, time and energy and focus, and just walk me through what your thought process was.
Yeah. Loaded question.
Totally. Sorry.
I'll try to be tight on the response. At some point I had been in a couple quite successful startups in relatively senior roles, but I'd always sort of joined right as or right after product market fit. And so I'd never really gone like that early where it's like you're just staring at a blank screen and you're like, well, what do I do? And I remember, and I'm sure I was a tough employee for a lot of my previous startups, just because like there's so many interesting things that happen with the startup where the cap table is really what pays out, right? Like who owns how much percentage of the company is really kind of set pretty early. And everything else is very, on a relative basis, like very small potatoes. And so I kind of always felt like, well, like Series A to IPO is like, the hard work, and, all of the money gets made by the earlier folks. Like that always never sat well with me in a weird way. Now, having gone through it, I understand why. Because it's like, it's brutal in like the early stages. But that was kind of I had been quite senior for 3 quite successful venture-backed startups, all sort of at that same Series A, Series B through exit stage. And I was like, I could do this. And so I think there was some element of that, some element of Rebecca being like, Jamie, like, I know you. If you don't do this, you're always going to ask, what if? What if? And then, I've got, and I think this is, not to make this whole conversation way too woke, but like, I think there is an element of entrepreneurship is a privilege where like you sort of have to be in a certain financial setting to be able to make that happen. And like, I got super fortunate that my wife's very successful in what she does. And so we started to have these conversations around like, hey, if we made an extra X amount of dollars a year, is that going to change anything in our life? Yeah. And the short answer is no. It's like, well, what if we made 2X? No. what if we made 10x? Like, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, well, what if we have a massive windfall? Well, then yeah, it probably does. So like,
Yeah.
we joke I'm the lottery ticket, and she's kind of the bond, right? Like where
Yeah.
she keeps everything floating, and I'm out here, chasing unicorns. And if I rope one, awesome, right? And if
Yeah.
not, we still got a great life. And
Yeah.
then, your question on the timing, specifically as knowing that we were trying to get pregnant, a venture capitalist here in town was the one that was kind of like talking me through some of this.
Yeah.
And his point that really, really stuck with me, and it's actually shaped a lot, even beyond just this decision. He's like, when your kids are under 5, they need somebody. But when your kids are like 10, they need you. And it's
Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah.
Like, under 5, they need someone to like change diapers and put food on the table and like do
Yeah.
whatever. But it can kind of be anyone. Like when they start to face some of these like, identity defining, more challenging topics, like that's really where they need their dad. Right?
Yeah.
And so the timing, he really kind of reshaped that for me, where it wasn't, sure, on paper, it's like, what are you doing? Are you an idiot? Like you're about to like step into this thing where like you're going to be, full-time job.
Super busy. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was actually like, okay, well, we have access to daycares. We have a lot of family in the surrounding communities that like are a huge help. Her parents, my parents, aunts, uncles, their aunts, so like our siblings, huge help. And so we knew we kind of had this safety net. And it's like, if I'm gonna do it, it's a much better time to do it now while he's young, like too young to really remember, right? Than when he's a little bit older.
Yeah, that's a really good, interesting macro assessment on timelines. I mean, I definitely can attest to that. I think that looking back in hindsight, I don't know if there was really any emotional and mental connection with my kids until they were 2 years old, to be honest with you. Like, it was just like hugs, feeding, diaper. It was physical. It was just physical, very physical giving, right? Just like a lot of like physicality, carrying, holding them while they sleep 6 times a day, like just a lot. And was it cute? Was it awesome? Yeah, but it was very much one-sided mental, emotional love. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah, and so I definitely think there's a lot of efficiency by maximizing this time during that point. And then second of all, you kind of answered the second question by just saying you've diversified your risk, so it's actually like not that risky, essentially. Yeah, and it's and I love that you're so conscientious. I love it. It's very thoughtful to you say that it's such a privilege to be able to do that, because it is right. I mean, I will say it's not easy, and I think it's really challenging to do that. But to be able to make a bet on yourself and do that does require a certain level of like cash flow. Do you know what I mean? Like, how are you going to not be able to, like not being able to make money for a longer or unknown period of time, to go find a way to, build a business that provides value is a privilege. It absolutely is. Yeah. So that's really cool, man. I love it. Yeah. So now you just uncanceled us by saying that. I love it. Let's get into some rapid fire questions. Oh, actually, I do want to ask one more. And let me ask you one more, and then we're going to do the rapid fire, okay?
Deal.
I might keep you right up until the hour. Sorry, man.
I'll get it.
All right. So based on what you know now, being a dad and now starting an early stage startup, what does success look like for you as a dad? And has anything changed? And what does success look like for you in business? Has anything changed?
Short answer, yes. Being a dad, I've tried to simplify it a little bit. Like being a dad, like if I can be on my deathbed and know that I love my kid and know that he loves me, that's success.
Yeah.
That's all I really want.
It's cool.
I think in being a dad.
That's cool.
And then, for business, it has changed a lot, where I think, and I know everyone reacts a little bit differently. I know a lot of people that actually get more motivated once they have kids, where they want to leave like an empire or whatever. It shifted for me where like I was greedy, and I think I still am greedy in some ways, where I just wanted the most, right?
Yeah.
As much as I could possibly get my hands on. And I think it's changed a bit now that he's here, where it's like I just want to hang out with him, right? And so I think I want enough, right? Like I don't want, it's definitely a privilege to not have to think about where our next meal is coming from, kind of thing, or like how are we going to make the mortgage payment type thing. I think once those needs are met, it's like, well, what else? What do we want out of life that we can't afford right now?
Yeah.
And it helped me. I think before Quinn came, I could come up with a million different different things of like, oh, I hate flying coach, right?
Yeah.
Where now that he's here, it's just like none of that stuff actually matters, and it's
Yeah,
like I would just
perspective.
rather hang out with him, you know?
Perspective.
Yeah. To be super clear, I wouldn't say I'm not miserable. Yeah, like I don't want to paint a picture that's untrue. I am.
Yeah.
It is unpleasant to be Jamie,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, totally.
it's my perspective has shifted, and I think my North Star has been more.
Got it. You're saying what your success criteria looks
Yeah,
like is there. So now you have a new goal to achieve versus
exactly.
where, yeah. Yeah, that's good. I think that's actually the healthier route because the reality is, what do they say is happiness is just perspective and gratitude or something like that?
Yeah,
I don't know the exact saying, but it's something like that, you know?
that sounds good enough.
Very good, Jamie. Let me go into my rapid fire questions so there's some symmetry to all my episodes, okay?
Yeah, deal.
All right. So, what advice do you have for other parents or soon to be parents?
Take all the advice you get with a grain of salt, because I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone's talking from their own experiences, and every experience is different.
Right.
And even just like the type of kid you're gonna have is so radically different from the next. Where like
That's right.
I would take, hear everything, like remember it, but don't
Yeah.
don't try to apply all of it.
I love it. Great advice. Great advice. Absolutely. Now I'm trying to think about all the advice I've given you. Just I'm just joking. If you could go back and tell yourself one thing before having kids, what would you tell yourself?
Someone actually told me this before I had kids, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't remember it until after I had kids. But it was that quantity time is more important than quality time. So just the actual like physical number of hours you spend with your kid is
Yeah.
much more important than like, okay, we did a dedicated like daddy son thing, and just making sure you're around in there. Because I don't
That's
think
interesting.
I set up my life for that just yet, and I
Yeah.
definitely don't have it now, but it's what I'm striving for.
That's really cool. I've never heard of that. That's really interesting. So it's not like business at all.
So,
It's
sorry.
in some ways it's not. That's awesome. Yeah. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned about yourself after becoming a parent?
I used to, and I think I still am extremely impatient. And with him, just have a much, I think not even just with him, with everything he touches, right? Like the whole ecosystem
Yeah.
around him, I'm
Yeah.
just a lot more patient than I used to be.
I love that because I'm the exact same. I'm like kind of a machine when it comes to work. I like things in tight order. I'm almost militant.
Yeah.
But with my girls,
Have
I'm
at it.
I'm like chill. Yeah. I'm just
Yeah.
like go for it. Here's my wallet. Let's just do it.
Right.
Let's just go. I don't know what happened. I'm really glad to hear that you're like that because I felt a little like hypocritical, but I think it's
Yeah.
just part of being a dad. I think it's just
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah. All right, to close us out, do you have a favorite business book that you can recommend to our listeners?
Um, I mean, none outside of the super cliche ones. Like Good to Great is a wonderful book.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's great.
The Goal is a wonderful book.
I haven't read that one.
The Goal. Okay, but between the two, both are exceptional. Read The Goal.
Yeah.
The Goal's like 60 years old or something.
Wow.
It's an old book. It's about, they don't make it super obvious, so you sort of have to dig a little bit. It's
Yeah.
about the whole Japanese Toyota like Kanban system, about like,
Cool.
but they do it in a novel format where like you follow this one guy through his like manufacturing job and like, but the whole
Oh,
idea is
wow.
find a bottleneck, fix the bottleneck, and then move on to the next one. But it's a very helpful way to frame.
But they do it in like kind of novel format, so it's entertaining.
Oh yeah, you hear about like his relationship problems with his wife and like
Oh, wow.
it's excellent. Really, like it's super old, but
I'm glad I asked. I'm glad we probed. Yeah, I've never read it before, so I'll go check it out. Yeah, thank you for
you can
that.
do it in an afternoon too. It's a pretty quick read.
Nice. Perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you, Jamie, so much for your time. I know how busy your life is, but I really appreciate you making the time to do this. And I'm so glad that you had a kid so we can finally interview you on the Girl Dad Show.
I'm
'Cause I
glad
know
you're tight on your qualifications. Like don't
I know, right? Finally, man. I know. I'm like, geez Louise, Jamie, come on. Appreciate you being on the show, man, genuinely. And I always love talking to you, so thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. This was a
Yeah.
blast.
Awesome. I'll see you in Chicago soon. I'm going to come out. We'll go grab dinner, okay? All right. Bye, brother.